All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with our finalist, Alex Averin. Alex, thank you for joining me today.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
So today has been a very intense day. It was full of emotion, and we saw a lot of great games throughout. So you were in the final with Ojo. He's a Nigerian nationalist champion. He came here today. It was a surprise. It was the first time seeing him here, and he just, he had a very strong presence today. What would you say was why weren't you able to beat Ojo as a player? Like, what was short?
Well, it's pretty easy to answer that because honestly, I played well in the match.
Yes, you definitely did.
I would just say he was the better player in the match. When it came to consistency and when it came to passive play, I think that's where I lost most of the points when the games got close. Because whenever he got his forehand and going my wide forehand, my wide backhand, I just wasn't able to keep enough balls on the table. Everything else I was relatively comfortable with. Not too many unforced errors with receive and serve. I was pretty good with the serve. He didn't do a lot with it.
Yeah.
Overall, he was just a little bit better, a little more consistent, a little bit better on the offense. But
yeah, for sure. Coming into the final, Ojo had completely walked over the competition leading to the final. While you had to really fight your way out there because there was a lot of strong players in the bracket.
Yeah.
You had to play Cedric Oba, which is a huge lobber, and those shots just keep on coming back to the table.
And I had Ojo in the group round robin too.
Yeah. So that was earlier too.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say coming into the final you were a little bit more winded than you usually are?
Honestly, I felt okay. I was a little hot, just from playing match after match after match. But in terms of energy, I was okay. Yeah, surprisingly.
So in the semifinal. There was a little bit of blip going on that happened during the third game. It was you were up 10-8 and
2-0, 10-8.
2-0, 10-8, and you were really eager to finish the game out. I saw you were starting your motions before the other player even started to serve. You were like, man, I really want to shut this out.
Yeah.
So what happened there?
Yeah. So I had the serve at 10-8. I had a good plan in mind. Served short, he popped it up, and I was able to take a forehand inside out, and I thought the point was over. Won the match, right? 11-8.
You just stood there and you just smacked that ball.
I took a good shot. He gave me the ball back after the point was over, and he said it was a net serve. And I paused for a second because I was thinking, I didn't see a net. Kind of looked in the crowd, nobody really said anything. I personally, had a hard time believing it, but I tried to just let it go. Yeah, I tried to give the benefit of the doubt, tried to just let it go, focus back on the next point. Played the next few points a little bit tighter than I did. It was unfortunate. I should have kept the same strategy at 10-8, and I changed it up a little. But it's all right. I tried to refocus when I went to the fourth game after losing that game in deuce, and I played well. I played better than that.
Yeah, when I was watching your game, I was like, that game was an absolutely steal. That was a robbery. He really just took that game away.
I felt that too on the court.
If it was any other normal player, the reaction would be to just get completely frustrated, and I would shut down personally if I was in that type of situation. Would you say that this is something that you have become accustomed to, in the sense of getting used to controlling your emotions when you're in a upsetting situation like that?
Mental strength. I think a lot of it comes with trying to let go what happened because it's already points over, situation's done, trying to move forward, and it's definitely hard. I still have that problem, but the better you get as a player, the more competition you see, the better your opponent's mental game is as well. You have to be willing to not just match them physically, on the court, but also mentally. Keep your strategy, keep your cool. And it's a really tough thing, but in a situation like that, even though I lost the game, I tried to, do the best I could after that.
So compared to Cedric, I want to say you play a relatively closer game to the table.
Yeah, I would say I'm more of a mid-distance player.
Yeah.
Mid or close.
Do you think that the setting where you were playing at that table hindered either of you guys when it came to that match?
I was okay. I purposely tried to drill him into the back court. He seemed okay for some points. I know a couple times he got caught by the barriers, and I've had the same issue. Sometimes I get far off the table and get caught by the court. I feel like all in all it was fair though, because we both had the same environment to work with, and maybe affected a little bit. But I could tell he also scooted up a little after he also realized that he didn't have, a huge court.
So I want to take it back. I want to take it back to the final.
Yeah.
Going into the final, you saw how Ojo was playing the tournament. What was your thought process? What was your game plan going in there? Was it like I'm going to keep the ball on the table as much as possible, or I'm going to go for decisive points? I want to end the point as soon as I can.
Well, I was trying to keep it tight because I learned a lot from playing him in the group stage. I lost really close, deuce and fourth. Unfortunately, I had a lead in the fourth game. Dropped it. I was I think maybe 10-6 or 10-7 when he was up 2-1 and lost in deuce. But yeah, I tried to pick up off that performance, his serve and receive style, what he's strong at, what I'm strong at against him. And going into the final, I really focused on keeping the receives tight, keeping my serves to a select couple of them that he couldn't rip and he wasn't comfortable starting off with a flip. I was able to find a few serves that he was not as comfortable with, so he would drop short, and so I continued to play short, sometimes flip, sometimes jab it long. But yeah, I wanted to finish the point a little sooner because once the rally got longer, his forehand really, he can play full table, and that was really tough for me when he goes wide, like I said earlier.
Yeah, he seems to have a very decisive table tennis play compared to the other players that I've seen,
higher quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Better decisions.
Exactly. He really sees the court as a whole, and if there's an option to play wide to the forehand, which is the side you would be on, he just goes straight to the backhand. No hesitation.
Smart. It's a smart play. Yeah, and that's also why I wanted to, try to play out the short, and if he gave me anything long, I really tried to put everything into that first opening, because, like I said, once the rally progressed, his angles were really tough for me.
Yeah, from the last time I've seen you, every time I see your backhand's always getting better. What's the backhand routine, man?
Practice a lot. I mean, it really is constant working on your mechanics. Not just looping or blocking, but getting comfortable with doing everything. So making it really steady, reliable. Being able to be flexible with it. So for me, for example, I can change directions, I can re-loop, I can block, punch. I can do pretty much anything I want with my backhand side, but it takes a lot of practice because not many players are that strong on the backhand side. Most players are big on their forehands, and I'd say my forehand's pretty good, but I focus more on being a two-wings player. So I can take it from both sides, as long as I practice, looping both, not focusing so much on the forehand and less on the backhand. So I think, even distribution of the practice helps a lot.
Since Ojo is a lefty, did you have any other strategy when it came to tackling? Do you play differently when you're playing against a right-handed player versus a left-handed player?
So typically I have more trouble with a lefty's serve. And it's hard to stay away from their forehand when they can set themselves up well with their serve. But funny enough, Ojo's a good player, of course. I didn't have that much trouble with the serve. Mm-hmm. I did miss a few, but I was able to adjust pretty well.
I think that's also in part because you have a relatively much more solid backhand than some of the other players that are here, which allowed you to keep yourself in it much more than what we've seen here today. You said you practice. Could you tell us a little bit about your practice routine? How long you've been in table tennis, and what's your average practicing time?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been playing for about 12 years.
12 years. How old are you?
20.
20. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Think older or younger?
I would have pitched you as slightly older.
Slightly older.
But playing since 8 is what struck me more.
Yeah. I mean, when I started, it was mostly once a week with my dad in the garage or in the basement. I really liked it. Got better pretty quickly, so I started seeing coaches. Got better pretty fast, and I continued to love it. And then, ever since then, just kept wanting to train more, and it's become half my life,
Yeah. What's your average practicing time? And if there's a tournament coming up, do you practice a little bit more, or do you just keep it the same?
Yeah, so typically to prepare properly for a tournament, I'd like to play 4 times a week, 4 to 5 times. So that includes league competitions, match play, and practicing with practice partners, drills. Typically, if I can play 15 hours a week, would be really nice.
15 hours.
Give a day or two in between for breaks to rest. That's important. And yeah, it's tough lately because I work as a coach as well, so it helps with feeling actually. Just kind of do some basic stuff, but lately I haven't been able to train myself as much with that going on. But I felt like coming into the tournament today, I was pretty well prepared actually, surprisingly. I mean, the thing is, I didn't plan to play here to play my best because I'm trying to get ready for another tournament that's a couple weeks from now. I saw the opportunity to come, and I thought, let's see how I feel. If I feel all right, go for it. And I would say, based off of my preparation, I played pretty well today. And but yeah, typically I'd like to get 4 to 5 days in, match play and drills mixed.
So on a national level, do you think that you're gonna take it to that next level where you're competing on a bigger stage, or do you have any plans in order to reach that type of atmosphere?
Yeah, I'm trying to. No guarantees, of course, but just want to get as good as I can. Try to find better opportunities to practice with better players, improve my game more and more. I mean, sure, Olympic trials coming up in 2020. I'll be looking forward to that, and I know the nationals this year are concluding now, but next year I'm hoping to also compete in the U.S. nationals, and yeah, just as long as I prepare, ready for any tournaments, just see how I do. Try to improve off every performance.
For sure. So we've seen over the past few years, the USATT has taken the initiative and trying to grow table tennis as a sport much more in the U.S. What do you think would be a good way in order for the U.S. to grow on an international level in the sport of table tennis? What does the U.S. need in order to play with the big guys, Germany, France, China, and all those people?
It's a good question. I would say better coaches, more strong facilities. So for me, I train mostly in the Lips in Denali, New Jersey. It's a good training center. It attracts good coaches, good players. People come from close and far away to train there. But you don't see a facility like that in every town.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So if you go to places like Germany, Austria, China, Japan, they got facilities like that in every town. You can go to a local club and they'll have players who could beat almost everybody in the United States. So I think trying to grow with stronger coaches would also influence players to become stronger themselves. And I think trying to advertise, table tennis more would help, because it's not as popular here as the countries I mentioned, like in Europe, in Asia. It's definitely not the same level.
Yeah, for sure. I think we'll get there eventually. Maybe it'll take.
We're working towards it. At least it's better. It's better.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think, frankly, do you think we have any chance in the Tokyo 2020 Olympics?
Honestly, no. Unfortunately, there's really not much of a chance.
Yeah, I was watching yesterday the USATT Nationals with the final. It was Feng, I believe, and Kanak.
Yeah.
Watching that level of play, I was like, okay, Kanak, like this is good, but when you look at the international competition, you think, well, you're like that's not good enough,
Yeah.
We just need to get better as like a country in a sense at table tennis.
Yeah.
Do you think Kanak would have any chance reaching, say, like top 10 worldwide?
You never know. Even now, I think he's 18, around that age.
Yeah.
He's been doing pretty well on the international circuit. He can beat some guys, but the problem is going into a tournament like the Olympic Games or the World Championships or the World Cup, it's like you have to go through one after another to be crowned the champion.
Literal circuit.
Yeah. For a player like him at his level, beating one or two players is already, a job well done. But
it's a team effort.
Yeah, I mean, he would need more. It would work to like a point, but once he gets to playing players who are in top 100, top 50, they're just tighter in the receive game, serving, and just everything overall gets a little bit better. It's that little bit that gets them to winning. He has a chance to be top 10, I think. It's definitely really tough. He would definitely have to go abroad. I don't think training in the U.S. he's going to get to there.
Yeah, I think he's currently training in Germany. I was talking earlier with some of the people here. It appears to be that like some of the U.S. players are banned from actually playing like the top leagues in China. It seems like China's trying to keep the doors closed in the sense of keeping their players at the top. The Chinese training regimen is extremely gruesome, and only is survival of the fittest, basically.
Yeah.
Do you think with the way China handles table tennis as a sport, and the way other countries are trying to catch up, because it's always been the Chinese at the front. Everybody's trying to play catch up. Do you think the philosophy is going to change when it comes to kind of weeding out the players that the Chinese approach that is going to take over in other countries, or does it is it going to be much more focused on talent, and if a player has it, we're nurturing him. If not, we'll just have the best players rise to the top.
You're talking about like for other countries?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you can only get so far with talent because there's nothing you can do to work around the amount of hours you need to put in to get to that level. Because you have players who are really talented and don't train maybe sufficiently, and they'll be just as good as somebody who has zero talent, but they put like their heart and soul into the game. So that's the thing, you have to have that balance. Like, yeah, if you find somebody with talent, it's great. It might make the process easier, but there's nothing you can do to work around all those hours, all the balls you gotta hit to, reach a level like that.
Yeah, table tennis is definitely one of those like really intricate sports that just involves so much mechanics. If you were to give like a percent of table tennis as a sport and all the knowledge that there is to be acquired in it, and you currently at your level, like what would you say is your current grasp of table tennis as a sport, like in a percent, if that?
It's so much more complex than people would think. Especially the better you get and the more shots you can implement into your game and the more strategies, like like they teach like in China especially, like from a young age they learn about what shots to play when, you know, all those little details that make such a big difference. And it's like you're never done learning in this game. Even the guys who are top 10 in the world, they're still, you know, learning stuff to get better and better, to hold their position and try to rise to the top. It's just like there's always something to improve on.
Right, for sure. Speaking of always something to improve on, I asked this to Ojo also, who gave me a pretty good answer. But as you get to a higher level in table tennis as a sport, there's a certain matching physicality that comes along with it, and you need a very disciplined body type in order to keep up with some of the shots that you want to play.
Yeah.
What would you say is your regimen when it comes to staying in shape, and what is your routine like when it comes to building that body type, which allows you to play those shots that are like, you know, 10 feet away from the table?
Yeah.
Especially like, you know, if you're going for like a backhand shot, that would require a ton of torque, you know, coming from down up. You know, how do you stay in shape to allow yourself to play the way that you do?
It's a combined effort of off the court and on the court practicing and training. So when I'm able to practice, I make sure, like when I'm practicing with like a practice partner or with a coach, when I'm training, I do plenty of footwork drills. So, you know, no matter how good you are, you can never be too quick, I guess you could say. So that's a big thing that people also overlook, like the amount of footwork required, how physically demanding it is on your legs, you know, to move at that speed and agility. So yeah, definitely getting a good mix of footwork drills, you know, just keep going until your legs are sore the next day. Same, honestly, with the arm, you know, everything. Sometimes I'll practice like 4 or 5 hours, the next morning my whole body's sore, right? And also, like if I can't practice as much, you know, going to the gym, you know, lifting a little bit, doing running, lunges, crunches, you know, for the core, because you need a lot of core strength. Yeah, a lot of, like I said, running, good cardio, keep up your stamina. I think it's really important to have a good mix of both.
For sure.
Because I don't think one or the other is good enough. Especially the better you get, the more physically demanding it is.
The more demanding it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So my final question, because I've kept you here long enough. So table tennis players are, like in the U.S., are especially like nomadic. They're always seeking like better competition, better players, better training centers. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, like exploring the local scene, like New Jersey, New York, and what has been your conclusion when it comes to where you centralize your training?
Yeah, so I'm pretty happy where I'm currently residing in the New Jersey area, pretty close to New York, because I would say the top areas in the country as a whole for like the level of table tennis would be like New Jersey, New York, probably Georgia, maybe Maryland, California for sure. California, I think, is also a big one. For me, also, before I moved to New Jersey, I lived in Ohio for about 8 years. And in the Midwest region, it's definitely weaker. You can definitely see a difference.
I didn't even know they had a table tennis scene in Ohio.
It's there. I wouldn't say it's good, but it's there. It's getting better. It's getting better than it used to be. But yeah, in states like Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, and even further on the West Coast, you know, aside from California, it's just, there's a lot of dead zones where you have players who, with their ratings, if they were to play like a tournament in the New Jersey or the California area, they would drop a lot. Because I feel like in those two areas specifically, say for example a 2000 player, I think a 2000 player in New Jersey would be like a 2100 in the Midwest. Because a lot of times the people will play each other over and over and over again, and you wouldn't have many really good players, like uprising, like kids who can play quick. You just have like the same players building off each other's points, whereas in the hotter regions, like I mentioned, there's always like players who like to come from everywhere and play each other, and then you can get a little more stronger competition, I guess, maybe more accurate ratings for the players.
Awesome. Finally, so for our viewers, do you have any final words for people that want to improve, that want to get better at table tennis as a sport, that want to get better at their game? So our viewers at Princeton Pong, do you have anything to say to them?
Yeah, as long as you are committed and as long as you work hard and train, it doesn't even matter how much talent you have. If you're willing to put in the work, and especially if you enjoy it, it's important to enjoy it, and yeah, put in the effort, put in the time. It requires a lot of time, a lot of practice, and it could be as good as you want to be, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Alex, thank you so much for
sure.
letting us have this interview, and it's always a joy having you come over and play in Princeton Pong, and
it's
hopefully
nice to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully we'll see you at the next tournament, all right?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Take it easy. Thank you.